Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk. Back again with you guys for another show. What we're going to do is we've invented a time machine, and we are going to go back 5 years. Just bear with me one moment. Hello.
Hello. Good afternoon and welcome to the Gooner Talk.
There you go. Oh, that brings back some memories. It's where it all started. It's Craig. How you doing, mate? Are you well?
I'm very well, mate. Thank you. How are you?
Yes, good. We'll just have a little chat when we're off air. And it's just lockdown's pretty crap, basically.
It's pretty bleak, isn't it? It's pretty bleak. I'm actually blessed. Like I was just talking about there. I'm actually blessed that I'm still working. So.
Daniel Roberts having Craig back is like when Michael Scott came back at the end of The American Office.
Thank you. I'll say that's a compliment.
There you go. Before we crack on, I just want to say a shout out to our sponsors, Football Prizes, who have this week got a mental prize going, and there's only 15 tickets left. So if you want to get a chance of winning a signed Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang photo montage, then you need to get hold of a ticket quickly because they are going to fly off the shelves, it seems. They've only been up a couple of days and they're nearly sold out. So I think there's 15 or so left. So the link's in the description for that if you go onto their website. And on Friday's show, we'll reveal which one of our members has won the free tickets. So make sure you come and tune in on 5 o'clock on Friday to find out. We'll revisit that at the end of the show. Anyway, it's just I saw a few people tweeting today saying that they kind of long for a normal day of Arsenal, and just for a day to go by where something mental doesn't happen. And
go support another team.
Yeah, it's not going to happen, is it, with us? So I know you've not seen the video. And obviously this is a very kind of sensitive topic in a way because we're talking about some very young guys that are involved in this. I'm not going to go into the intricacies of what's going on. I'm sure most people have seen it. And if you haven't seen it, I advise massive caution about going to try and find it. But William Saliba, anyway, talking about him in general, conducted his 4th interview in the space of a month yesterday, basically saying again about Arteta, his frustrations of not playing. What have you made of the whole Saliba fiasco besides what happened last night?
Yeah, it's a very strange one, isn't it, with him? Last year, 2 years ago, everyone was telling that this boy was going to be our new centre half, and we were told that how good he was, and he was going to be a beast, and he was only, how young he was, and how mature he was for his age and how mature he was for a footballer in his position. But it's been a massive strange one, hasn't it? He went on loan and then he wasn't allowed to play in the French Cup final, and then he was allowed to play in the French Cup final. Then he comes back to Arsenal and makes 2 or 3 appearances for the under-23s. And then I believe, unfortunately, his mother died? Unfortunately,
it's pretty ambiguous about what happened. We assume that is the case.
Yeah.
It was never really published fully.
And if that was the case, then I can understand where his mind wouldn't be right, or he wouldn't be in the right mindset for football. Bit like Aubameyang. When you hear, any of us, if our mums were sick, we'd be worried, and our minds wouldn't be here where they are. But yeah, these interviews he keeps doing, I'm not too sure, Tom. I'm not sure many people are going to agree with me here, but I'm not too sure if I want him here, to be honest.
Yeah.
He seems like a player that's going to cause drama, and he seems like a player who will revolt. Yeah. I don't know what it is with the youngsters now, the young footballers. Too much money, too much hype, too much. I don't know. But he seems like a player that could cause problems, and I'm not too sure if I want him here, mate, to be honest.
I'm on the same kind of trail of thought. I just can't get my head around, and I put a couple of tweets out about kind of the interview, and I've done that throughout kind of January because they've happened so frequently, and people have responded kind of to play devil's advocate, basically saying that he's entitled to be frustrated. He was treated really poorly by Arteta. He wasn't given a chance, and this. And I get that. And Arsenal did make a mistake at the end of the summer window with the whole not registering him for the Europa League and maybe not sending him out on loan for the full season. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that you go and do lots of interviews because you're still employed by the club. Like if it's not like he's been sold, it's not like he's gone somewhere else and he's talking about the club he used to play for. He's still an employee with a long-term contract, 3 more years left. And I find it in the same way that you do, that the more I hear him talk, the less I want him to remain at the club. And also the less faith I have that Arteta and knowing what Arteta's like to have kind of a forgiveness for him in a way for doing these things, because it keeps now. I do want to play devil's advocate a bit because some people I know who are French and have told me about the kind of the translation, that things are being taken out of context, that he's not saying things in certain ways, and actually all he's saying is basically he wasn't given a chance, but he's going to get his head down and so on and so forth. And you can only take what's basically reported these days anyway. But for me, the frequency of the interviews is what I have the biggest issue with, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, why, if he said it once, why does he need to say it again and again and again? Is it, was it him and Guendouzi on Instagram sending each other messages? Being about left out and
locked out or something.
Being locked out. So I don't know, really, to be honest with you. I just think it's a case of, I don't know, is it bad timing or? Especially with this video that's come out. I mean, it's massively been massively badly timed, hasn't it? But yeah, he's a player that I got really excited about because he looks like a lump, but an athletic lump, if that makes sense. Big, strong lad, But where he goes from here, I don't know. And if we are getting lost in translation, perhaps we are. If you've got friends who are French who are saying that we are getting lost in translation, then hopefully he does put his head down and he does come back to Arsenal and we see the best of him. But yeah, this video thing, like I haven't seen it. Hold my hands up. I asked you about it when we come on. If it's true that it's 3 years old, then I'm not bothered. Not bothered. If it was last night, we've a problem.
He wasn't our player then.
Yeah, exactly. If it's 3 years old, then look, what he does in his own time is up to him. But what would worry me is that he actually got his phone out and filmed it. That's the worry.
It's obviously a really weird topic. It's not one I'm going to spend time talking about because at the end of the day it's very sensitive and there's a lot more to come out from this for sure, and we surely will hear a lot more all about it in the coming days, and I'm sure that Arteta will be questioned on it because I'd be surprised if he wasn't asked about Saliba's situation, how much is going on. There's a couple of people in the chat saying that he's been treated horribly. I would be annoyed, and I think that just to kind of close this topic and we move on to the next thing, is that I can't get my head around this rhetoric of he's pissed off, so that makes it okay. Because an employee's perspective, you don't speak out at the place you work for.
No, you don't. I mean, if I turned around and I told my boss that, basically what he's saying, I'd get sacked. Simple as that. Do you know? So I don't see why. Obviously, at Arsenal, there's got to be like all places where you'd work. There's got to be a code of conduct, surely, about what they can do and what they can't do, and this, that, and the other. Because they're in the they're in the limelight. They're professional footballers. They represent the club. So when they sign that contract, they should have a set of rules that they have to apply to, and I think there obviously is a set of rules that they've got to apply to, because otherwise we'd be seeing social media from players all over the place. But it's funny that it's the youngsters, the Guendouzis, the Saliba or whatever it is how you pronounce it. But I find it funny that it's the youngsters all the time, and it's not more the senior squad. I think we've come in, the youngsters now coming into this generation of social media. And they think that they can put anything on social media when clearly you can't when you're a professional footballer, and clearly you shouldn't be when you represent a club like Arsenal.
There are some really good examples. I mean, you look at what Marcus Rashford has obviously done over the
Oh,
lockdown.
yeah.
Like, that's the type of example people should be looking to. And
I mean,
you have to say,
Man United are not going to worry about him putting that up on social media.
no, exactly.
Not at all.
And there are kids at Arsenal that don't fall under that bracket. Bukayo Saka has been a workhorse, and Emile Smith-Rowe has been excellent. And you can't say a bad word about either of those two kids. But Guendouzi comes to mind. Saliba's comes seemingly of a similar kind of with this attitude, and I'm not buying it, and I don't particularly like it. And I don't think Arteta is either, hence why Guendouzi's not here anymore, and we'll see what happens regarding Saliba.
I think Guendouzi was quite hard done by, to be honest.
Oh, really?
I do. I don't see why he's been banished from the squad because he got a bloke round the scruff of the neck and told him what he thought of him.
So, how much behind the scenes do you know about what kind of happened?
Well, look, I'm only giving my opinion on what I've been told. Like, we're told that he had a go at a fella, told him he was on more money than him, got him round the throat because he went in on one of his players.
Right.
I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. In my opinion, I've nothing wrong with that. That happens on the football pitch at Sunday League level. Do you know what I mean? People having a go at each other and winding each other up. Now, perhaps you shouldn't have got him round the throat live on TV. If he was going to get him round the throat, he probably should have done it down the tunnel. I know they've got to set an example and there's kids watching and this, that and the other. But I don't see why I don't believe he was banished from the squad for that.
No, neither do I. I mean, look at
no. So there's got to be there's something more. There's only an excuse. The fan base was up in arms when Granit Xhaka pushed Tierney away from the Leeds player. I forget his name now.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, Xhaka strangled. Who was it in the Burnley game to get sent off? Like, he did the exact same thing.
Yeah. Do you know? I mean, there's someone in here now telling me to get real. That's violence. Was it? Did he really hurt him? Did he?
It's funny, violence is on a football pitch. It's so different.
Violence is smacking someone in the face and knocking them out. That's violence, or hitting them over the head with a beer bottle. Getting the fella around the neck and pushing him on the ground, is that violence? I don't know. Perhaps I'm. I don't know. Perhaps I'm not as soft as some people.
I think that there is certainly stuff that went on with Guendouzi behind closed doors, and for whatever reason he didn't apologise to Arteta for whatever those things were. That's what I heard, is that he basically didn't apologise for a lot of stuff that went happen behind closed doors. And Arteta was basically like, well, if you're not going to basically move through the same corridors as everyone else at the club, then you haven't got a place here. And we'll see what happens in the summer. He's only got a year left on his deal when he returns.
If he's disrespecting the boss, then I've no problem with that. If because if, like I said, if you disrespected yours and I disrespected mine, we'd be in trouble as well.
Yeah, Vinny says if you think that's violence, you haven't played football at a competitive level.
Exactly. I know, Vinny. Good man, Vinny. Yeah. You haven't played in the Sunday League when you're waiting to take a kick-off and fellas are throwing up in the centre circle because they've had too much beer the night before.
I mean, when the Cedric Bruno Fernandes thing against United, it's like when Cedric getting booked for basically just clipping Bruno in the face. I remember playing Sunday League and getting elbowed so hard in the side of the cheek, it was numb for 2 months. Like, it's just... Yeah. And we played on. It's football. Yeah. It's just, it's a different game these days. Anyway, the next kind of thing to focus on, which I imagine is going to take up more of our time, is talking about the kind of the current situation of the club and Arteta. I watched Lee, our good friend, our mutual friend Lee, Judges, getting very irate about Arsenal.
Lee getting irate?
No. And obviously he's kind of, from the discussions I've had a bit, kind of chucked in the towel a little bit, especially when he saw Willian come on.
Yeah. You don't like Willian.
I'm done.
Yeah. You don't like Willian.
But where's your head at with the manager right now?
Well, I think my head is up with yours. Now, if someone wants to search through my Twitter, I tried to find it last night because I could have used it so many times. When he was made manager, I tweeted out that I was very underwhelmed by the appointment. Very underwhelmed because I thought that the club, the size that we support, the size of the club that we are, we deserved and needed a more experienced manager. Emery came in after Wenger. a very experienced coach. You know, a winner of the Europa League 3 times on the trot. I don't think many people are going to do that. A very experienced coach, and it was all rosy in the garden for the first 20 games with Unai Emery. And then, obviously, something happened. After the first year, obviously, we missed out on the Champions League by him resting players. Stupid mistake that he made. Playing players you shouldn't have played, rotating players you shouldn't have rotated. And, you know, I often sit back, I don't know if you do or does anyone in the chat, I often sit back and I think to myself, what if we'd have beaten Brighton and Crystal Palace? Yeah. Where would we be now as a club if we had have beaten Brighton and Crystal Palace and we did go into the Champions League?
I think Emery would still be here, maybe.
I do too.
Yeah.
I do too. I still think he would be manager. But something happened with him and he lost the dressing room, and the players clearly down tools in his last reign at the end. At the end of his reign, and then we find ourselves looking for another manager, and it was quite a strange position to be in because we'd had Arsene Wenger manager for so long, and I'm sure there's a lot of people watching where they'd only know Arsenal with Arsene Wenger as manager. They've never seen a managerial change before, and all of a sudden now we're 2 in 2 years. So Mikel Arteta has obviously come in, and Arsenal have made a project out of it. You know, the process thing. They gave Emery a 2-year contract with option for a third, but he never got the third. And they brought Arteta straight in on a 3.5 year. So that goes to tell you that obviously someone at Arsenal believes in him, and someone at Arsenal really believes that he's the man. Where I am with him at the moment, I can see the change, and I can see no one can deny the fact that we're better. We certainly are better. Better at the back. That's what we all wanted.
Okay, well, let me say quickly, because I know what the retort will be from people. So just to set you up for that, is that people will say, "Well, look at the league table." So what?
Yeah, look at the league table. But people say to me, "Look at the league table." So what? Look at the league table. What gives us a right not to be where we are? That's what I like. That's what I'd say. What gives Arsenal Football Club, or what gives us the right as fans to say we shouldn't be there? We're there for a reason. We haven't been good enough this year, but I don't think that's all down to Mikel Arteta. I hate it when I see people. I mean, can you imagine being an Arsenal fan and blaming Arteta for the Wolves defeat? I saw it on Twitter. People are blaming the manager because David Luiz was wrongfully sent off, and Bernd Leno decides that he wants to go and punch the ball out of his box. How can you possibly blame the manager for that? We played some superb football that half. No one wants to talk about the football. Everyone wants to talk about what happened and why Arteta is this, that, and the other. Did we play particularly badly against Aston Villa? I don't think so. No, I don't think we did.
The mistake killed us.
Of course. The game is out. The game plan is out the window. I sat down in front of the telly to watch the Villa game and think to myself, this is going to be good because they played so well against Wolves. They're going to come out now and they're going to be on fire. And after 2 minutes, bang, you're 1-0 down. Fire's put out and you're on the back foot. I can't see how the manager can be blamed for that mistake on the pitch. Now, I can understand people like Lee and like many others who get the ump with him when he brings off players who are playing well and replaces them with the likes of Willian. Yeah. Or doesn't bring on Martinelli. The big thing yesterday on the same old Arsenal was, why didn't he bring on Martinelli? Harry gave a brilliant answer. You know, Martinelli doesn't. He's been told that Martinelli doesn't want to play on the left wing. That Martinelli is not fully fit. I can't remember the answer now. If you want to go and have a look at it, but it was a brilliant answer. But you know, Martinelli's coming back from a long-term injury. What has Martinelli done in the last few games for us to go, oh, why aren't you bringing on Martinelli?
Yeah.
Do you know? So we can't. I just the nonsense I see, Tom. It's just the nonsense. I mean, back in the day, right, when all this Arsene Wenger out and in was happening. I was a staunch.
Remember it well.
I was a staunch, I was a staunch Wenger out, right? And you know that. And I might have said some things on Twitter, and I might have said some things on this very show when I was running it that I actually cringe at now. I look at my timeline on Twitter and I think to myself, God, was that me? Did I actually say stupid things like this? And it makes me cringe. So that's why you'll see on my Twitter bio that it says reformed character. But
that's why when I took over the Gouda Talk, I had to put tweets after 2016 on me.
Exactly. But if you're the Mikel Arteta thing is a project, right? And the process, trust the process. People are making this thing of trust the process. The process is happening. The process just doesn't happen on the pitch. The process happens behind the scenes, in the back rooms, and it's happening. No one can deny that there's been so much change since Mikel Arteta has been here that there is no process, because there is clearly one. The back rooms, all the back rooms nearly changed. He's gotten rid of the players that couldn't be sold, or no one wanted to have, or no one seemed to be able to get rid of. They're gone. The deadwood is gone. I'm expecting to see big things in the summer. If there is a 3.5-year project and Mikel Arteta is the man, then the board need to back him big time in the summer. They need to back him big time, because if they don't back him, and then we find ourselves in this position next year, you can't blame him. You cannot blame him, because he's been brought into the team. He's got half an Emery team, half a Wenger team. He's slowly starting to bring in his own players, Thomas Partey, Gabriel, players who are coming in for him, or William, that's debatable. But there is a change there. There is a change, and no one can deny that there is. Now, I'm Arteta in, and I will give Arteta time. I said that I'll give him till the end of the season, and then I'll have a think about it. I'll change that now to I'll want him here next year. But if he is here next year, which I totally think he is, and he will be, he's under pressure from me from day one. Yeah, you've had your year. You've brought some players in. You've had your little clear out. You're under pressure now, Mikel, from day one next season. And if we find ourselves in this position this time next year, then I'm sure my opinions will be very different.
That's you. Obviously, we were of a very similar mind in that sense. And I sat here the other day and basically just blurted out all of the things I wanted to get off my chest, which I know you watched.
Yeah, very good.
About it. And I can't get my head around the whole league position thing. Just if I can come in on that briefly. People look at the league table as if none of the other teams have changed, like as if they're all exactly the same as they were last season, when that's just not the case. And Arsenal were able to add 2 players in positions that Arsenal have needed to add players in for a good decade. Like, we've been waiting. You and me sat here 5 years ago saying that Arsenal need a good centre-back. We need a good centre midfielder. And we finally went out and signed 2 top-class, world-class in Thomas Partey's case, centre midfielders and centre-back. And we haven't had Partey for half the bloody season because he's got this utterly ridiculous injury where he's never been injured before, and now he gets injured because he's come to Arsenal. It's so Arsenal.
Welcome.
Here's the. I imagine when he signed, they gave him a contract and a med kit. Like, that's what he got.
In 2 weeks' time, you'll probably be injured, Thomas, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. Yeah.
Here's your company car and a Zimmer frame. That's what you need. But no, it's just what that's so frustrating though is obviously that, and you picked up on like the 2 games. Like, you wonder what had happened if we had beaten Crystal Palace and Brighton under Emery. I wonder what had happened if what didn't happen against Wolves, and then we'd have been able to go from a Wolves win into the Aston Villa game. Because after that Wolves game, had we have won that, with some games, of course, of other teams still to play, but had we have beaten Wolves, we would have been 6th in the table. And we're still, after those 2 losses, only, I say only, but I look at it as only in this crazy season, only 9 points off top 4.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I was called crazy by Dan and Lee, for me saying that, if we'd have beaten Wolves, we'd have been above that lot down the road. Yeah. that would have instilled massive confidence, in the players and in the fans. It would have, it would have given us something to, to be happy about. I was called, they don't mean it, but it's their opinion. Well, they do mean it, I suppose. But
they do mean it,
especially Lee. They said I'm mad for accepting the rotation at Southampton.
Yeah.
To get knocked out of the FA Cup. Now, but my argument to that is, Tom, as the fans, right, we know where we want to be. We want to be back in the Champions League, right? And people are saying to me, we're not good enough to be in the Champions League. We're not good enough. That might be true. Okay, that might be true. If we did get into the Champions League, we'd probably get stuffed, right? But the ultimate aim is to get back up there, okay? Now, winning the FA Cup is great, and I don't want to sound like I'm dissing the FA Cup, because as a young boy growing up, the FA Cup was what you wanted to get your hands on when you started playing football as a boy, right? The FA Cup, to me, is the pinnacle of English competition. Winning the league and winning the FA Cup. As a young boy, I wanted to win it. I wanted to walk up the Wembley stairs and lift it. But yes, Lee did call me triangle. That's Mike Kurtz. Thanks for bringing that up, mate. Yeah, 3 points. 3 points.
Yeah.
But he had a week to think of a nickname, and that's all he could come up with.
That's poor from judges.
Very poor.
The thing is, he's half pint, and
the thing about it is, in a week, I thought up about 8 for him, and that's all he could come with. But going back to the FA Cup, I'll ask you, Tom. Yes, it's great to win the FA Cup, this, that, and the other. But if we had have won the FA Cup and finished 10th, what have we achieved?
What do you mean by that?
What have we achieved? Would you have rather been knocked out of the FA Cup and gone for 4, right? And the possibility, now it's gone now, obviously, but when we were talking about it before, it was on, right? Yeah. Beat Wolves, beat Villa. And we were saying if we beat Wolves and we beat Villa and perhaps got a draw at Manchester City, it was on, right? Yeah. And yes, there's people in the chat there saying another trophy. Yeah, I get it, right? I do get it. Winning a trophy is what football's about. But on the grand scheme of things, looking out of the box, I wanted the club back in the Champions League. And I would have much rather been out of the cup. This is just my opinion. I respect everyone's opinions on it, but I would have much rather been out of the cup and gone for that.
Yeah.
And got up there. Really and truly. And then there's other people telling me, that football's about winning trophies, and they are absolutely correct. 100%. It was about glory. But as Arsenal fans at the moment, I think we need to take a step back and actually look at where it is we want to be. Yes, winning the FA Cup is great. But winning the FA Cup, what? Well, yeah, it's great. It's great. We get a day out. We get to say we won the FA Cup. But what do we actually get? Does that get us back into the Champions League? Does that get us back? No? Does it get us back into the Champions League where the money is? Does it get us back up there with the big boys? And people are right. We probably would get stuffed everywhere. We're not good enough to. People are saying to me, we're not good enough to be in the Champions League. I would probably agree with them. But the ultimate goal for me as an Arsenal fan is to watch my club back in the Champions League. And I don't believe that Mikel Arteta rotated that team because he was going for the points. Yeah, he came out and told us that
in the end. He didn't. There was like 5 injuries. So,
but of course, being us, everyone jumped on the bandwagon. Oh, he's changed it because he wants to save this and save that. But, the reactionary fan base. But, yeah, for me, the FA Cup this year, what I don't know how I can say it, wasn't of importance to me this year, I'm afraid.
I find it a really conflicting topic because I'll obviously look back when I'm your age. I'm joking. And I'll go, oh, look at the trophies we won.
Yeah.
Of all the days that we had, and will I remember Arsenal getting top 4? And I'll probably think, no, probably not. But like as you say, like the long kind of longevity, the long-term plan, the long-term view. If Arsenal were to get into the top 4, it could propel us onto so much more than just an FA Cup in the future. And the thing is, if we're having this conversation 30 years ago, it's very different because the money's not the same. The FA Cup's more prestigious back then.
Yes.
I'm not saying it's devalued now. I'm just saying back then it was more prestigious because of how little money there was in the game through the European competitions now. And we're in a situation where Arsenal's end goal has to be getting into the Champions League. That's for me. And I talked about this the other day. I said the process that we talked about, saying what is Arteta's process? Arteta's process is not about making Arsenal a title challenging side, because a Premier League side to win the title on a consistent basis needs to be financially backed like City and Chelsea and United every season.
Massively.
To be a top 4 side, we're in the bracket of clubs like ourselves, Liverpool, Spurs, and then you look at Everton and Leicester. Now, Liverpool won the league because they recruited excellently, they sold really, really well, and they were able to push for that one-off season where they got towards the title, similar to how Leicester managed to keep all of their top players fit and everyone else capitulated. But Liverpool aren't Chelsea and United and City, because you won't see Liverpool do over the next 5 seasons what City, Chelsea and United are going to do over the next 5 seasons. That's why they're part of the reason why they're dropping off this year. They didn't bring in any reinforcement, I don't think, in the summer, bar Thiago. And when you've seen other teams like City bring in lots of players, like Diaz was a fantastic signing for them. Really fantastic signing and the perfect player to what they needed. Ferran Torres has added extra dimension up front for them as well. And Arsenal need to be back into the Champions League so we can then try and excellently recruit and excellently sell. But the thing is, over the last 10 seasons, Arsenal have recruited and sold exceptionally poorly. So bad. And that's why Arteta's coming into the team. And that's what I really hate about the Emery thing as well, is because people say, oh, Emery wasn't backed. And I say, well, he got Pepe. And they go, well, he wanted Zaha. And I go, I don't even care if he wanted Zaha. He got Pepe. And that wasn't even the type of player that we wanted. Emery wanted that forward player, but Arsenal should have been spending 70 to 80 million on a centre midfield, on a Partey and a Gabriel that we got for less than we got for Pepe.
Yeah.
So that's what I don't get, is that Emery didn't have the mindset for me, and he didn't really have his head screwed onto what Arsenal needed. Whereas Arteta, I feel, does see what Arsenal need and is trying to get there. And unfortunately, because he isn't as an experienced manager, he is struggling a bit more and he is making mistakes. But
of course he is.
I can see through the haze of some of the mistakes that he's making as an inexperienced coach, the good things that he is bringing. And I see progress there.
I mean, that first half against Wolves was some of the best football I've seen us play in years. Yeah. Do you know? And like Dan said it last night on our show, Dan actually sat back and said, do you know what? This is the first time I've actually seen a change, or I've seen a style and I've seen a setup. And then he said, then it all went horribly wrong because Luiz getting sent off. And he said the same thing as me. He sat down and he was expecting, us to come out against Villa and turn on the style. But that just doesn't happen in football. And, I'm a firm believer of you're only as good as your last result. Yeah. And you've got to perform on a consistent basis. And at the moment, there's not many clubs. I mean, everyone's having a go at Mikel Arteta, but I mean, is there a Premier League manager that is churning out consistent results week in, week out at the moment? I don't think there is there?
Just Guardiola, really.
Well, Guardiola. Well, I mean, he's in a class of his own, isn't he? I mean, is there any other manager churning out win after win after win after win after win? No. Is everyone beating everyone? Yes. Why? I don't get this thing about why we have this God-given right to be up there.
Yeah.
That really gets on my nerves. I think that comes from, without causing offence, I think that comes from a lot of the younger generation of fans, because you guys were the lucky where we won everything. I grew up watching Arsenal finish 13th
in the 20s.
Yeah, exactly. And you can remember when Arsenal were awful.
Yeah.
They were boring and rubbish. But now, fans who have seen all this success, I've always said, Tom, and I've always said it to you before, I actually think winning the league unbeaten's been a bit of a curse. Great when it happened, massive, walking around the place with your chest out. Yeah, we won the league unbeaten. But I don't know, is that shot up people's expectations so high that when things are bad, you know, it's really bad.
Really bad. And what annoys me more, and I brought this up, is like we go back to the recruitment that we've made. Is like Arteta. I saw someone the other day, not like your classic negative Nellies, like just a random person tweet out saying, "Well, Arteta's already had 3 transfer windows," and I'm like, hold on a second. Like, he's had 1 summer window, and he's had a January where he'd been there a month, and he brought in, well, the club brought in Cedric and Murray basically because of the connections Raul had with agents. And then we've had this January. And if you're going to say your theory of like you're only as good as your last game, well, if you're going to judge a manager based off as good as his last window, he had arguably one of the best January windows of any manager in Premier League.
Arsenal Football Club, exactly.
It's unbelievable.
I don't like. Another thing I saw, right? He's got all rid of the dead wood, and then the people complaining that he's got rid of the dead wood are complaining that he didn't get a fee for them.
Yeah.
When they're going to go for free anyway, because they're at the end of their contract.
Yeah.
I think people just need to take a step back and just calm down.
Yeah.
Like I said, I might be an avid supporter of Arteta, and people in the chat might not be an avid supporter of Arteta. But all I'm asking is, you know, give him another season. And like I said, he's under pressure from day one for me.
Yeah.
Because I've given him his slack, right? There's your slack. Now I'm reeling it back in. You've got to be, it's got to work this time. Otherwise, the people will, the hounds will be at the door, and they'll be looking for him.
What is interesting, obviously, about kind of the next season and like where we look ahead is and I'm with you on the pressure starts from day one. We did talk about obviously the backing side of things, but we can't just sit there and next season. You won't see you probably will. If we don't see Arteta get backed in the summer, there will probably be a point in the season where I'm like, well, he wasn't backed. But I'm not going to be saying, well, he wasn't backed, so we need to keep him. Because at the end of the day, I am very much of the mind that with his inexperience, if he isn't backed, he isn't going to succeed.
Yes,
and
of course.
There may be coaches that could do a slightly better job if they were more experienced and had more stuff. But the thing is, we've got Arteta now, and I'd rather that we back him and see what happens, because we've already seen him improve things. And if you do say sack him next season because things aren't going well, and you bring in an Allegri or a Simeone or whoever, I don't know. Anyway, just someone that's more experienced and has got a track record of winning things. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're suddenly going to succeed at Arsenal.
Exactly. Yeah.
They'll have the exact same thing that Arteta's got. They'll have more experience, but arguably they would have mostly been at clubs that also gave them a hell of a lot of backing. And we've only seen and interestingly, there's also a case to say that some managers that come from clubs where they weren't necessarily given backing also fail. Like you look at, say, Lucien Favre, who did a really good job at Nice. He went to Dortmund and failed ultimately. And you look at other managers like Antonio Conte, goes to Chelsea and wins the league because he did really, really well previously at Italy and Juventus. But I just don't see how, if we add a good centre midfielder, if we add a good striker, upgrade on Bellerin. The more I watch Bellerin play, the more I kind of reel back on my opinions of him and want to see more of an upgrade on him. But if we back Arteta next window, based upon the fact that Arteta's turned this team into the third best defensive record in the league in just a year after being a calamitous side at the back, I can't see how we won't get better and how things won't exponentially improve. I just can't see how it wouldn't happen.
Yeah, I'm with you, but I think like it goes back to what I was saying there, the impatience, the impatience of some of us, and I was like it. I was like it. I wanted, in the Arsene Wenger reign, I used to sit back after the transfer windows on Sky Sports and think, why haven't we brought anyone? Do you know? Why not? Why is this club not looking to strengthen? And what we were told we were going to be, going back to the thing when we opened the Emirates Stadium that we're going to be competing with this, that, there, and the other. It's never happened. We've never competed once with any of the teams that were mentioned in that sentence. But on the improvement thing, when you hear what the players at Manchester City said about him, it fills me with confidence that we've got the right man. When you listen to what Sané said about him, improved his game 100%, made him what the player he is today. And there was another lad there as well, wasn't there? Who was on the wing that said the same thing about wing play.
Sterling did as well, I think.
Yes. So I mean, you can see that he's doing it with Saka, and you can see, because I don't care what anyone says, Pepe's been not bad the last few games. Massive improvement on what he has been. I'm very disappointed with Aubameyang. Very, very disappointed with him at the moment. I know he's had this thing over his head about his mum and stuff like that, but I'm not too sure what it is he brings us anymore, Tom, to be honest. He's come on as a substitute the last 2 games, done absolutely nothing.
Yeah, he's been poor. Really
no
poor.
Impact. And I've always said that at Arsenal, we've always had talented players, but when was the last time we had a player who made an impact when he was brought on the pitch? I think the last player that made an impact was Sanchez, probably. Alexis Sanchez.
Yeah.
And that's a long time ago now. So, he was the last real player that made a real impact to the team, to the fans, to the club. We've got a lot of talented players, but have we got that? Have we got those players that make an impact? I don't think we have, but we will have.
Yeah, well, I think we do. They've been injured. Tierney and Partey.
Oh, yeah, Tierney. Yeah, okay, yeah. You could massive, great shout. Kieran Tierney has made a massive impact. He has, of course. So there you go. There's the last player, but kind of out of sight, out of mind there. But Tierney, a great player. £25 million from Celtic. Why can't we do that again with someone else? Why do we have to go out and spend 70, 80 million on... I mean, we were talking last night about the lad at Dortmund. Is it Haaland? We'd love to see him at Arsenal.
Oh,
it's going to cost you. Yeah, do you know what I mean? It's just not feasible. It's just not. Yeah. I think he's got a buy. I think Harry said he's got a buyout.
He's got a buyout that activates in 2022 for 68 million. As soon as that activates, Real Madrid,
Real Madrid, Barcelona, Man City, But there's a lot of players out there. I don't want Mikel Arteta to go out and spend 50, 60, 70 million on a player just for price. I don't care how much the player costs, as long as he improves us. That's what I want. I want players in that will improve us. I want a player in that will improve over Bellerin. I want a player in that will improve over Aubameyang, if you want. I want a player in that will improve over Lacazette. I want a player in that is an improvement on Granit Xhaka. Yeah. They don't... And that's very harsh. Perhaps very harsh on Aubameyang and Xhaka and Lacazette. But at the moment, when I look at the team, they are the players who I think, you're still here. You're still here. Do you know what I mean? You're still here from the previous regime, and I think we need to. I mean, people might think I'm absolutely mental for going off on Aubameyang, but I think if everyone sat back and actually had a think about it, he's not been great, Tom. And Lee said last night, get rid of them. Get rid of a lot of them. Lacazette, Pepe, Aubameyang, get rid of them all and start again and bring in what it is that Mikel Arteta wants to bring in. Obviously not going to happen, but I hope Aubameyang, Lacazette, Bellerin, Xhaka make me eat my words. I really do. But at the moment, that's how I feel about it. I just want players, round pegs for round holes. That's all I want.
Yeah, and I just have a couple of quick discussions with people in the chat and kind of asking about what were their minimum expectations in the league, and some people are saying top 6, and I'm like, well, if your expectation was top 6, then that's still more than feasible with this season. And also, it's the thing that separated Arsenal with other teams has been the finest of margins. It's not like we are dreadful. We were for 10 games when we picked up one win.
Yes.
And if anything, that period for me gave me even more confidence at the end of it, because that was a period that Emery experienced and couldn't get out of and was sacked. Arteta got into a same situation with 1 win from 10 and turned it around, got the win against Chelsea, and also got the win against Chelsea by playing players that were risky. Like he had Joe Willock on the bench who he could have played at 10, and he had played Joe Willock at 10 previously, and we know that he likes Joe Willock, but he didn't. He put in Emile Smith-Rowe. He put Martinelli on the left wing, and he didn't have to do it. And I hate when people say he was forced into those choices, because he wasn't. And it's just a case of like finding an excuse for it. But he got himself out of that situation with a couple of wins or a few wins. And then I hate the Wolves game so much. And I was doing a watch along with Hugh Izzy for the game. And to be honest, by the end of by the last half an hour of the show, I wasn't really coherent anymore, because I was so upset and I was so downtrodden by the fact I'd witnessed the 40 minutes of amazing football from Arsenal, where I thought we were going to dominate this game and easily come away with the 3 points. And then the classic thing happened where David Luiz did what he did. Now, no matter what you think about a penalty, wherever it was, it's something with David Luiz that's happened previously, giving away the penalty and the red card. Now, it was very fine margins, and we're not going to go into the intricacies of that decision, but it's the David Luiz case study that will tell me more about Arteta, because with him running out of contract at the end of this season, if Arteta goes out and renews that contract, that'll be a huge stick to beat him with for me.
Yes, absolutely.
And that'll be one where I'm like, he's made a mistake there. Like,
well, I will be as well. I mean, I think it's a farce if David Luiz gets a new contract.
And it makes no sense to do that for me, besides where Drew turns around to me and says that it's all about kind of the mentality in the dressing room. But I'm sorry, but you could find someone else that's really good in the dressing room and doesn't make these clanging errors all the time. And I just can't get my head around why people are thinking that Arsenal this season have been a terrible, terrible team, when things have not gone our way for the first half of the season without Partey in there for so long. We've had these silly injuries. We've had fine margins cost us. At the Villa game, we make a stupid mistake, and then we just can't get back into the game. The Wolves game, we just completely capitulated. Man United, either team in the Man United game could have won it. Lacazette with the one that hit the crossbar, and Pepe had a couple of great chances. Cavani could have won it for them. There's just fine margins that have really cost us, like the own goal we scored against Burnley. Like just these things that have happened throughout the season. And yet we are still just 8 points, 9 points off top four. But the fact that we've got this big number 11 by our name, people are
it's so congested
on that position. Yeah.
The league tables are so congested. You know, there's only there's 1, 2, 3 points that separates you from 11th to 8th or 7th. Or do you know? It's. But I understand why people. I can understand why people are upset about seeing us down there, because they've never seen it before. I understand it. It's not, it's you don't put Arsenal and below 10th together. No. You don't, because it's been very, very, very rare that anyone's ever seen it. So I think it's a reaction to the reaction is to say that we're no good. Because we mustn't be any good because we're 10th. But then when you sit back and you analyse it like you have, brilliantly there, we haven't been that bad. I mean, it has been fine margins, and we have had some rotten luck. So what do? We turn around and we bash the manager.
Yeah, because he's the figurehead. Like, because he is the forefront. Like, he is the thing that you can't sack a team. Like, you can't do that. But who can you sack? You can sack the manager, and so therefore it makes it obviously he's going to be the guy that people target.
Well, at the end of the day, the buck does stop with him. It does stop with him. He's the one making the decisions, right? Now, I just hope that he doesn't keep making this wrong decision with Willian, because I can see this Willian thing being the end of him, because I don't trust Willian, and I'm sure there's a lot of fans out there that don't trust him either. He's had one good game in an Arsenal shirt, and that was against Fulham. First game of the season. It's the only good game he's had for me. Do you know? And I don't get what it is with him. I understand why people don't want to see him on the pitch, because I don't. I don't want to see him on the pitch. But what does annoy me is when you hear people saying, "Oh, why didn't he bring on Martinelli? Why is he bringing on Willian?" People need to have a little step back and think about why he hasn't brought on Martinelli. Do you know? Because what has Martinelli done in the last few games that he's played to make you go, "Oh, why didn't he bring him on?" Like, do you know? Like, he has done nothing.
I would rather have seen Tobias personally.
Oh, absolutely, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. No one wants to talk about that, though, Tom. They don't want to talk about why Martinelli ain't been brought on.
Yeah. And it makes no sense because an Arsenal in that game, we had Aubameyang on the pitch, we had Pepe on the pitch, we had Saka on the pitch, who can all score goals.
Yeah.
And then we had Erdegaard and Emile Smith-Rowe who were being creators. And we lost Partey, who was a centre mid. Like, we brought Willian on for Partey. Yeah. And we then just had Granit Xhaka in the middle, who was like spraying passes around the edge of the box, and you had Erdegaard on there. And people are saying, well, Martinelli's good in the air. And the thing is, I don't know what it is about that phrase by saying he's good in the air and we're putting crosses into the box. But I don't care that Martinelli's all right in the air, to be honest. Like, he scored a couple of decent headers in the Europa League and now he's like as good as Olivier Giroud in the air, apparently. But the thing is about Villa is that the way that you're going to break Villa down is through the intricate passing around the edge of the box and find that key ball. You ain't going to beat Concert and Mings in the box to a header. Like, it's not how you win the game.
No one wants to talk, like I was just about to say to you, no one wants to talk about how well Aston Villa defended. It's just all our fault because we couldn't score. Oh, we couldn't score a goal. We're rubbish. Do you know? Hang on. What about giving the opposition a bit of credit here? Do you know?
And you talk about like when, and we're coming towards the end of the show now, last 10 minutes or so, like about how we've kind of been spoiled. Like, you look at Arsenal being below 10th and it's just like one of those things. It's like, it's not right. It's taboo, effectively, them being in that position. But the thing is that the Premier League is a completely different landscape to what it was 10 years ago. All those years that we were getting top four, there wasn't loads of competition for top four. It was basically a 5 or 6. Well, they call it the Big Six for a reason, because it was the Big Six and Everton was kind of on the periphery of it at that time. But now in the Premier League, you've got the Big Six, but you've got your Leicesters and the Wolves that pushed the last couple of seasons, who have had a dreadful season this year. Aston Villa have looked really good this year. Southampton looked really good this year at the start of the season. Like, there is no really, besides the bottom kind of 4-5 clubs, who are pretty poor, but the top 15 teams in the Premier League are brilliant. I remember when we used to do on the Guendouzi back in the day. Do you remember we had? Do you remember Jenny, Liza Rizzo?
Oh yes.
Remember Jenny?
yes.
Me and you were on here with her and Mems, and we had a big chat and a debate about La Liga versus the Premier League.
That's right.
And I sat and I said La Liga is better. Like, you look at the teams; it's so underrated compared to the Premier League. You look how far some of the teams go in the European competition. How good Sevilla were in the Europa League and stuff like that. And Valencia and Atletico Madrid are so good. If you were to have that debate now, I'd be saying the Premier League is miles above La Liga now. Like, the quality at the top of the because of money. Like, it's all because of the money that.
Well, of course.
The money go on.
If you go back in the day, right, the Premier League, it was either Arsenal were going to win the league or Man United were going to win the league. There was no one else involved. You know, not even Liverpool, not even Manchester City. Manchester City were in the second division. Do you know? They were down in Division 2. When the Premier League changed, ultimately, for me, when Roman Abramovich came in and brought Chelsea. That's when the whole landscape of the Premier League changed. I felt sorry for Arsene Wenger a little bit. And I'll tell you why. Because Project Emirates, without all this money that was pumped into the game, right? Yeah. Sorry for calling it that.
No, it's right. You're on. Go.
Without that money, without that way of winning things coming in, Arsenal might well have gone on to be. Yeah. We were doing things correctly, right?
Yeah. They didn't.
No, you can't predict what was going to happen at Chelsea. They were sold for £1, for Christ's sake. Yeah, they were nearly gone. Yeah. No more Chelsea. Right? Yeah. Save the bridge and all that, and they were bought for £1. And now look at them.
Yeah,
Roman Abramovich came in and put all the money in, and no one could have predicted that was going to happen. Because I truly believe that if that didn't happen, then the Emirates Stadium and Arsenal might have worked in the way that they wanted it to work. They wanted it to become a place where young players came through, played for Arsenal, won us stuff, and then we sold them. And then we brought the circle kept going round. You know, we kept selling players. A young player came through. He stayed with Arsenal for 4 years. He won this. He won that with Arsenal. And then Real Madrid will come in and spend 100 million on him. And then we go again. Do you know? So that might well have happened if that cash injection hadn't have come from Roman Abramovich. Money, in my opinion, has ruined football. It's certainly not the game that I can remember watching growing up. As a young lad, watching footballers hit each other and kick each other and push each other. It just don't happen anymore. It's become, for me, football has become too athletic for me.
Fine margins.
Yeah, some of the players look like underpant models. I mean, we had our very own one, of course, Freddie Lundberg, meddling for Calvin Klein. But when all that kind of stuff started coming into it, I was like, I don't think I like this. It's changed massively, and it is because of money. I mean, you look at all the players now; they're sponsored by this company, that company. They can't wear these boots because they've signed with that company, and they have to wear these clothes because I don't know. It's ridiculous, Tom. Football has changed massively. It's not, but money for me has been the devil for football.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Arsenal have had a bit of money over recent seasons, and we've spent quite a bit of money, as people will point out. But the problem is we've spent it so terribly. And
I go back to when we could have bought Kante for 20 million.
Oh, we got Xhaka.
And we spent 35 on Granit Xhaka.
Yeah.
Go back to when we could have bought Van Dijk for 12.
Yeah.
But we said, nah, his stat DNA don't look too good. We'll get that German lad, Mustafi, 35 million.
Oh, don't. It's just
this is what I mean. You see, when people say we haven't spent money, it's a myth. Because we have.
It's a myth. Yeah, we have.
It.
And again, like the ownership, there's kind of a big split, and this could be a whole podcast in itself. But there's a split for me on the ownership, because I have sympathy in the sense that they've begun to invest. Like, they invested with the Pepe deal, they invested with the Partey deal, and they put money into the club to do that. But the problem is that because they're not of a footballing brain, they didn't recognise that the people making the footballing decisions and the recruiting decisions were making all of these errors. And the buck does stop with them. Now, I'm hoping that we're seeing a change. I'm hoping that with the investment that they're putting in and with the decisions that are being made at the executive level, which have not been perfect, but with the signings that are being made now with Tierney and Gabriel Martinelli and Gabriel Magalhaes and Partey, that it's going to improve. There might be a couple of Willians along the way. It might still happen. We had a David Luiz in 2019, and we've had a Willian in 2020. So it might be that there's a couple of dross, as you described it. But I see that there's improvement over the last couple of years in the market, executively, and also on the pitch and with the coach. And I'm hoping now that we're in a position that at the end of next season, we'll be having a very different discussion. If we're not, if he has been backed, then we can have a discussion about probably needing to move on.
Let's mark this date
9th
and
of
come
Feb.
back. Yeah, let's mark this date and come back 9th of February 2022, and we'll see what's happening.
Yeah, we'll book that in. We'll book that in. Anyway, that's going to bring the end of the show. Just before I do say goodbye to Craig, if you haven't already and you're missing out on tickets, let me see if any have been sold in the last few minutes, because there's not too many left to get your signed Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang framed montage. There is 14 tickets left, so not long. It will be finishing on Friday. I imagine it will sell out way before that. So make sure you.
Is it a raffle?
It's a raffle, yes. Basically, a raffle.
I'm going to buy one of them, I think.
There you go. So join Craig, and you could be in with a shout. You can buy as many tickets as you like. But as I say, it's probably gonna sell out by then. But we've got some interesting prizes, including a Tierney signed prize coming up in a couple of weeks. I am assured that is on the way. So look forward to that. Anyway, Craig, it's an absolute pleasure.
Hasn't it?
To reunite.
Brilliant. Yeah, it's been good, man. Great what you've done with the channel, mate. It's God. It was kind of a puppy when I had it, and you've turned it into a beast. So it's a great channel. Lots of stuff I've watched on it. It's a complete. I hope you don't mind me saying it. I think it's a bit different to my Same Old Arsenal podcast. I think it's a bit more professional than the Same Old Arsenal podcast.
So I'm saying it's good to have the variety. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Listeners can go to here and then they can jump onto Same Old Arsenal and they can jump on some really terrible podcasts like the Gooners pod that Mike runs. Like,
that thing. Oh my god.
Oh, isn't it bad? Isn't it?
It's awful. Absolutely awful.
We're only joking, Mike. We love you really. And if
I'll say a great story. Well, just before we go, I'll say a great story about Mike. The first ever podcast I'd done with Mike, he invited me on. And his internet went down, and he jumped in his car, and he drove to the nearest takeaway. I think it was.
Oh, is that just his default when something goes wrong?
Yeah, so I think it was Wendy's or McDonald's or something. One of these places. And he sat outside in the car, robbing their Wi-Fi. We're doing a podcast.
Craig, I've got to go to Wendy's because my internet.
And you can see. He came on the screen. He's sitting in the car. I said, "You in a car?" He says, "Yeah, my internet's gone. I'm outside such and such, robbing the Wi-Fi."
Jesus Christ! Oh, so funny. Anyway, you'd be able to check out Craig tomorrow. When's the next show?
When? Oh, the next show won't be till our next show's Friday. Dan does the team talk on a Friday.
Of course, yes.
He brings in another Arsenal fan and then another fan, a fan of the opposition, and they have a chat. And then we do the podcast. The main podcast is on a Monday night, always at 7:00. But next year, I think next season, we've all sat down. There's a few ideas flying around. We hope to do 3 shows a week next year. What that third one will be, I don't know. Yeah, but by next season we'll know, and there'll be a third show, and we'll be doing 3 shows. But at the moment we don't know what it is. So at the moment it's just the 2. Not unless anything miraculous happens and we do an emergency one. But we've never had to do that.
Something of a player doing something explicit.
We've never had to do that yet. So don't hold your breath.
Oh, there you go. Well, you can make sure you check out Craig at Scotty Boy Gooner and for his reformed Twitter.
Yes, reformed character.
And obviously at the Same Old Arsenal. It's not called the Same Old Arsenal by Twitter handle, is it? What is it? The at Same Old AFC?
At Same Old AFC. Yeah.
There you go. So make sure you give him a follow, and you'll be able to check out Dan's show on Friday and the usual podcast. And if you haven't obviously checked out their podcast from last night, where you said that Harry was an excellent answering of questions regarding Martinelli's substitution, then make sure
it was a good answer. I wish I could bloody remember what he said, but it was a bloody good answer, and he even made the judge actually retract into his seat. There was someone there
actually getting lower down.
Vinny Eagle, where's your podcast? Is it on Spotify? Yes, it is, mate. It's on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music. If you've got an Alexa, ask it to play the Same Old Arsenal.
Can you really do that?
You can. Yeah. Got to get on Amazon Music, Tom. Got to get where it is, mate.
I'll have a look into that. I mean, people keep pestering me to put it on Spotify, but I can't work it out. Maybe I'll have a word with you.
Yeah, mate. No problem. I'll help you do it. It's pretty easy. Yeah.
Sweet. That wraps it up. I'm going to be on with Amanda and Sophie on the Highbury squad a little bit later on this evening at 7:30. So if you've not had enough of me, which I don't know what's wrong with you, if you
mind those ladies, Tom boy, mind those ladies.
Yeah, they're feisty. I know Sophie's going to have a go at me for a few things, so we'll see how it goes. But make sure you join me for that. We'll see you again very, very soon. And as always, up the Arsenal.